Hey, good morning. Y94's home of the Playhouse in the morning. Zero, ABK, Joel D. And this is something we do called Comfort in Numbers, where a member of the Playhouse family is like, okay, can anybody relate to this? Give me that circle of support in the form of that comfort in numbers of knowing I'm not the only one. At 237-HITS, text 35270, you can give some comfort in numbers in the form of your story for Playhouse family member Derek. He says, I love my son, but I hate his imaginary friend. I never had one as a kid. He's 5 now and is constantly talking about someone named Blob. Well, Blob apparently likes to tell him what to do, what to eat, what to play. If he's being naughty, it was Blob's idea. Blob tells him to do things. Blob sometimes tells him that Mommy and Daddy are mad at him. Blob sometimes tells him he's a bad boy. It creeps me out. I'm creeped out. I'm just reading it.
A little bit.
It can be cute sometimes. He'll laugh every now and then, giggle at jokes that Blob's told him, and is laughing so hard he can't even repeat them. Or before bed, he tells Blob that he loves him and tucks him in. Literally thin air he's tucking in on the bed next to him, and he's saying goodnight to Blob. I know it's not uncommon, but is anybody else out there generally creeped out by their kids' imaginary friends? So if your kid's got an imaginary friend and it's like kind of weird for you sometimes, or maybe like you remember as a kid you had an imaginary friend, you could give some comfort in numbers. I don't think I ever did. Did you guys have imaginary friends at all, or is that like not a thing?
I don't think I can give any comfort. Now, I didn't have an imaginary friend, but my family always joked I had one because I whined a lot. And I would say, Noah. Like, that's how I would say no, but it sounded like Noah. So they always would say, are you calling for your friend Noah? Where's your imaginary friend Noah? And that's what they always used to joke.
I mean, it's a good thing you didn't have an imaginary friend, because it seems like you came from a family that would have ridiculed you for
the
your
whole
imaginary
thing.
friend.
No, I don't remember having one, but I think just because I thought it was cool, so like I made up one that I didn't really like, because apparently you actually think you see this as a child, right? Like your little buddy. And I'd always like pretend like I had an imaginary friend to get out of situations like this.
And blame it?
Yeah. I was always doing so. I might be like this. I might be like this son, this kid's son, where he's like, "Oh, Blob did this. I'm so sorry," but I never went to the extent of like, Mom and Dad hate me or whatever. Like that's
a little bit creepy.
That's extreme.
It got a little bit weird quick there for a sec.
Yeah, that got really weird.
Can you give a little bit of comfort in numbers? 237-HITS, text 35270, and it's like either you had an imaginary friend or your kid's got an imaginary friend, and I think it adds that next like level of comfort to it if it's like if it's creepy a little bit.
Just the way you read it, though.
Creepy.
Do you remember The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin and the other guy? Did you ever see that?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, never mind. So way out of context, but just the way you read it made me, it was kind of just creepy. Like it gave me that creepy movie vibe. Elijah Woods, yeah.
What we needed is we need to dim the lights a little bit.
It sounds scary.
Get the Halloween music on. Sometimes Blob tells me to do things.
Blob. That's the way you did your eyes.
Creepy.
That's how I was like, oh.
Just feels a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, just make sure you lock the bedroom door. Don't let them sleep in the bed with you.
Your kid's got something like that, like an imaginary friend?
No, it was my niece. I was babysitting, and I had made macaroni and cheese for lunch, and she goes, oh, my friend Becca wants the macaroni and cheese, which is her imaginary friend. And I said, oh, I don't think she's really hungry. She looks me dead in the eye and goes, Becca's always hungry. That's why I can't sleep. Like, with the most serious tone ever, just straight in my eye told me that. It was like, okay, now I can't sleep.
I wouldn't have known what to say, if I'm being honest. I'd just been like, okay, no, you've effectively creeped me the heck out.
What would you do?
I'm just like, Becca sounds like a party animal.
Let's go. Macaroni and cheese for Becca.
Becca sounds kind of wild, doesn't she? Comfort in numbers? Hello?
Okay, well, I had a neighbor kid who I would talk to sometimes, and she would tell this story about Hans and Jake. And she would talk about how she would play with Hans and Jake, and they would, put on her shoes and put on her clothes and stuff like that. And they moved out of that house. And years later, a new family with a little boy moved into the same room.
Sure.
And he talked about the blue man all the time. And I asked a girl years later, what did Hans and Jake look like?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I remember what Hans looked like, but Jake was blue.
Do you think these kids are seeing ghosts?
Okay, yeah, are these imaginary friend stories, or are these like legit ghost stories?
I think kids can see ghosts, and then you get to a certain age and you can't see them anymore.
I see dead people.
Exactly.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you seeing some text of comfort already?
Yes, and it's terrifying. Somebody said, my kid said he didn't want to go to church anymore because my invisible friend says he can't follow me in there. someone
lovely.
else.
Oh,
That's okay.
Yeah.
creepy.
You got to go to church more often,
You
if anything.
force them to go to church.
You go to church more.
Someone said my cousin had an imaginary friend who said she used to live in the fireplace and said she was red and patchy as if she was almost burnt. And apparently she was a little girl who wore funny clothing and looked like olden day clothes. Still spooks me out.
Yeah, that's no. I'm moving.
Lives in the fireplace.
I mean,
moving.
that's probably, I don't know. Do you believe in ghosts? Like maybe that's what happened to that person.
That's what
And
I think.
That's their spirit.
Comfort in numbers. Hello.
I was adopted, and my
Okay.
mom had 2 kids that died in a fire. And when I was younger, I didn't even know who they were. I was like 3 years old, and I started coloring in my mom's bathroom with her makeup on the like the mirrors and stuff. And my mom walks in and was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Mom, Brooke told me to do it."
What if these kids are like possessed? That sounds terrible.
Y'all,
I hope my niece or my children never have an
I'm
imaginary
not
friend.
going to sleep tonight.
Okay.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Comfort in numbers. You kids ever have a creepy imaginary friend?
Playhouse in the morning.